But I want people to understand nutrition is not just what you put in your mouth.
Yep.
It's what's happening in your body.
And you know what I also say to my patients too, because I appreciate you highlighting the fact that you can eat as many nutritious foods as you want and it doesn't always work. I talk to my patients and I say, when you're under stress, I want you to imagine that you actually require more trace minerals.
Yeah.
Right? And those micronutrients to actually get you back to a place of balance because you're literally burning through everything.
Hi everyone, this is Dr. Christina Rahm, and I am here with a beautiful friend named Maya and her dog.
My sweet, 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 oh so sweet dog.
This is Willie's actually found a home, and maybe because she knows you're a really good person, so she's laying on your lap. Seriously.
Oh, thank you. She's up. She's so precious.
Dogs can read energy and feel energy, and we are really particular about what we feed our dogs, by the way.
Yeah, as am I, interestingly enough. I used to make my dogs food.
Yeah, we sometimes do, and then we buy the fresh food that we put in the refrigerator. My husband's parents are veterinarians, so he's and they were in Washington, like the first in the United States. Basically, they did lasers and they did natural functional medicine.
Amazing.
Yeah, so integrative, which was different back then.
That's right.
But we're here to talk about you and not my husband.
Or our dogs.
Or our dogs. You have had a fascinating career of helping people. And really how I feel is I know that when you spend time in personalized medicine or in a clinic or with nutrition or with a diet or with health in any area, you're impacting one person at a time, but you can also spread a message that can help people throughout the world. And we're in 90 countries, so I would love for you to share basic, simple things that will help people that are part of your background. Yeah. And I would love, even if they're simple, I want people to understand the basics, because I try to teach that sometimes, and I don't know if people listen to me, but hearing it from you, when this is an area that you're focused on, I think will get even more people's attention.
Yeah, that's such a great question, and thank you for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
I'm thrilled you're here. We're happy.
So, it's interesting. I grew up in Massachusetts, and when I was growing up, we traveled a lot around the world because my mom was engaged in various types of research. And Dr. Rahm, I don't think that I understood the gravity of that international travel and the imprint that it left on me as a child that would later inform how I interpreted what I learned in nutrition school and then how I shared the information back out to people that I was working with. Because you talked about how you're in 90 countries. And one of the things that I learned, especially from a young age, just from lived experience and travel, is that when you go into small villages, almost anywhere in the world, there's always some type of whole foods-based pattern of eating that's centered around community, cooking together, and doesn't have a lot of added sugar, a lot of added salt, or a lot of synthetic fats. In fact, usually there's no synthetic fats the further out you go. And it was funny because when I was in school, I learned that, but I didn't let it sink in from a global perspective. And then as I got out of school and I began to work with people, I would start to say things like, tell me where you're from. Tell me about your heritage foods. Tell me about some of the cultural norms around cooking and community and family. Tell me like a beloved recipe. And as they told me, I started to see my childhood play back in real time.
So give me an example of a village, and I understand what you're talking about, because even when I'm in Nigeria or Ghana or Uganda, there's different there's different kings, there's different,
exactly.
Unless you've really experienced that, if you've just gone to visit, but I'm like your mother, I've been there to work, with the universities, with the different tribes, with the different areas, and it's fascinating because they all have their different food, and you're right, and I don't know why I never really completely thought about that until now. It's basically healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So give us an example.
Okay, so I'm going to use an example from my family. Okay. So my maternal grandmother is from Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
And when I was younger, we would spend a lot of time in the countryside in Toco.
Okay.
And we would go there. And one dish that was often made was a bread called bake, but it was made with whole wheat ground flour that they would grind. And then they would grate coconut into it and serve it with fish that had been seasoned with thyme and Scotch bonnet peppers, celery, chives, all sorts of herbs from the garden, and then peppers as well, but not hot ones, so not spicy peppers. And that was served together. So you have your seafood, your veggies, and a little bit of whole grain bread that has coconut grated into it.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Do you make it? Have you?
So I have. Full disclosure, I am not a fantastic baker. My husband is.
I'm not a good baker either. I love to cook.
Same.
But I'm not good at baking. My mom and I think you just either have that or you don't.
I agree.
Because I've tried. I mean, it's like my son said the other day, Mom, the cookies are burnt. And everyone was laughing. I think everyone was at the house. And he was like, you guys don't understand. This is every week of our lives. My mom would bake something and it's burnt. So it's because you have to really be patient too and follow. You have to really be there and be present when you're baking.
And you have to, it has to be measured.
Yeah.
So, I cook with, I feel this way. Yeah. And the baking is like, Maya, you may feel that way. However, the oven temperature is this many degrees Fahrenheit.
So, you have tried to cook that?
Yeah. So, I've tried to cook it. I've been very successful with the salted fish. That takes, actually a huge amount of soaking and boiling. Yeah. If you're going to do it right to get the sodium low.
Yeah.
And I had to have a friend of mine who's a chef make the bread with me. Yeah. And then we got it right.
I want to taste that. That tastes so good. That's a great example, though, because a lot of places they don't go to the store.
Right.
And I think that's hard for a lot of Americans to visualize, but they're actually getting everything from the earth, right? It's right there.
That's right.
And we have an abundance of stuff, but there's preservatives. There's GMOs, and some of the patents, actually not just one, some of the patents I've worked on are to reverse GMOs and toxins and heavy metals in the food.
Yeah.
Right, because other countries are actually healthier because they haven't had as much exposure as we have.
And what I think is so interesting is when we talk about farming in the U.S., I mean, of course, farmers are the original stewards of the land,
100%, yeah.
But it's almost like we're not investing back into them so that they can engage in agricultural practices that actually preserve the integrity of the soil.
Yeah.
And so some are, but when it's not a guarantee and it's not a given. Right. And it's fascinating because one of the things that I've seen when I've traveled through the Caribbean, also even when I was in Australia with my family, or even in Switzerland, for example, there was so much regenerative agriculture that was just passed down through generations. And it was kind of, well, this is just what we do.
So it's interesting about regeneration. So I have the patents for, part of it was reversal of aging, skin, hair, and nails regeneration as well. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, that's fantastic for people. But people didn't understand that the first part that I wrote was about the environment, about the land, air, and water. And you have all these amazing people like Sadhguru, and I think he's amazing. I just think the world. And one of my closest friends is on his board of directors. I think the chairman right now. So
Incredible.
So I know him fairly well, and he's doing such amazing things
with the soil.
With the soil. But when I talked to him, I said the problem with regenerating the soil is you can't just plant trees.
Correct.
You've got to get the toxins out. And now maybe it works in some areas, like in a rainforest, right? It's different. The problem with the United States and a lot of different countries, even if I referred to even in the Middle East or India or Eastern Europe, when you've had war,
right,
when you've had a lot of oil and gas and things spill, the toxins actually don't leave the stratosphere.
That's right.
And so you have to regenerate, you actually are almost detoxing, and then you're supplementing. And I always talk about remediation. I wrote a book called Remediation, and I'm like, it's much more than just giving it something. And I explain it like this. When you have a house, it's beautiful, but you live there for a long time, you have to take the trash out.
That's right.
What happens if you don't?
It builds up, and then everything that's in the trash is left behind, and it is a mess.
It's a mess. And in the soil, what people don't understand is GMOs travel. So you could have soil that you think is organic, but if any of the GMOs traveled into that soil, even through a seed, right, that soil is no longer what you thought it was.
Right.
So it's a continuous process, and it doesn't really overwhelm me because from my perspective, you can't get governments to change everything. It's just not possible. I'm not saying they don't want to.
Right.
The money behind it is so extreme that it's too hard. So I really look at people like us and business owners and people that are educated on this area to figure out different ways to do this, right? Because we can't just say, oh, this is too hard, we're not going to start over, or we're not going to try a different way. And it's just like cooking, it's like nutrition, it's like everything. There are different ways to do that to the soil. Now, Sadhguru's is part of it.
Right.
So if you ask me, is that important? 100%. I'm not putting him down at all. It's very important. He's taking his piece, because that's what we all should be doing, right? Taking the information we know and helping this world, and that's one of the things he does, and he's very good at it. But I feel like all of us have to do it. And you traveled everywhere, just like I have. And I have this saying I tell people all the time, the more you know, the more you're responsible for.
But I appreciate that you put this into context. And I think, the U.S. is such a young country that we don't have the conceptualization here of what it means to actually have to remediate soil in that way. Perhaps with the most recent California wildfires and the homes burning and everything that's in the home, people have an understanding, at least in, I'd say, the last 100 years, right?
Yeah.
So like in the last few generations, that folks are getting it from that perspective. But I don't think that people understand this kind of long-term trajectory, and especially when you're talking about what does it mean for nutrient density for the foods that are coming out of our soil.
Yeah. In the human, I agree with you. I was raised by educators, people in medicine, and farmers.
Yeah.
So generations, even tobacco farmers, because back then,
it was right.
It was one of the areas we did cotton, soy, we did cows, we did everything, and we still have some of those farms. But we didn't know to do it even back then. You knew to irrigate. You knew, and this is horrible to say, but pesticide, right? I remember the planes flying over and it coming down. But we are a young country. And I'm so glad you said that too, because I never want to criticize our country.
Yeah.
I want to empower all of us. But I also think we have to speak truth.
I agree.
And deal with things. It's like being in a marriage. This is how I feel. Marriages aren't perfect. Countries aren't perfect, right? So for us, we have to look for the betterment, but you're right. We haven't taught that, and the funding hasn't been there.
Agreed.
To really back it. Farming used to be the lifeblood of this country, and then things changed. And then it was looked at like manual labor. Well, what people need to understand is that's one of the most important jobs people can have.
Food is one of the single most important levers for impacting human health and the planet.
100%.
I want folks to get on board with that understanding. We're not sitting here talking about something theoretical.
No.
This is something that is a must. If you eat by mouth, we're talking about 3 meals per day, water every single day. Those are non-negotiables.
Yeah. They're non-negotiables. What are other non-negotiables when it comes to this talk and nutrition?
So I would say across the board, fiber. And people are probably, okay.
I'm so glad you're saying this because we don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
So please talk about it, because I haven't actually talked about it enough either, and it's very, very important.
It is so important. So, and I know that sometimes the data can be complicated depending on how you interpret it, but really what the data says in the U.S. is that the average person living here is not eating sufficient amounts of fiber. What we understand, and it's broken down, as by gender, right? Or sex assigned at birth, right? So it could be 25 to 35 grams of fiber, but when I'm working with people, I actually say aim for a minimum of 30.
Yeah.
Just because I know that people aren't going to get it.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, well, just try to aim for a minimum of 30. Fiber is super important for a variety of reasons that when people come to me, I say, listen, we're talking about impacting your gut microbiome, because fiber can act as the nourishment for the good bugs that are living in your gut. Yeah. And so the more diverse colonic bacteria there is, the better off you are as an individual. Fiber is also wildly important when it comes to metabolism and digestion. So I always tell my patients, I'm like, when was the last time unsexy that you had a bowel movement? And I want you to actually be having bowel movements at least once a day.
Yeah.
Fiber it's intricately involved in our digestive
Yeah.
process. And also helping to package up any lipids that are floating around in our bloodstream, helping to keep our blood sugars balanced. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And so if I could put one thing at the top of the list, it would be, Wilhelmina agrees with me,
Yes, she does.
fiber. She's like, that's right.
What fiber are you choosing to be what is your, because even when I do formulations, of course, I'm looking at fiber, and you can't put it into every single thing,
Right.
because some of the stuff is silica and water
Right.
and vitamins, so it's different. But the reason I'm asking you what fibers you're telling people, because one of the things I think is not known by a lot of individuals is you say the word fiber, but then unless you're unless you've studied it or you understand it, and this is something I do all the time. I'll throw out like, this is what you guys need to do. Even like protein, they'll be like, what kind of protein?
Yeah.
So can you talk more about that?
So when I'm talking to someone one-on-one, it's very different than if I'm making like a blanket generalization, right? And so usually what I say for the general is I want people to think about the plant-based foods that they eat that are A, culturally relevant, and then B, accessible and affordable. And then once they have those plant-based foods in their mind, then I say, choose 2 or 3 of them that you can put into your routine on a regular basis, and then go to whatever your local grocery store is and look for perhaps maybe a legume. Look for an ancient grain.
Because I'm glad you said that, because I was wondering if you would bring it up, because I think that's something we miss. Because we think grains are bad, but your ancient grains are really good for your body.
I love the ancient grains because more often than not, those not only have fiber, but they have the full amino acid profile. So it's a great plant protein as well.
Right.
And they also tend to be a good source of iron, which is also quite nice.
Yeah.
And so I say those things. And the leafy greens, sometimes that's what comes to mind for people. And they are fibrous. However, we've got to eat quite a few of them to get the fiber content that we want. And so that's when I say, think about a vegetable medley, right? So can you put your asparagus, Brussels sprouts, cabbage together? That's why things like ratatouille or stews are so amazing.
Yeah.
Because it allows you to get to having anywhere from 10 to 15 different vegetables in there. And as long as you season it nicely, then it's like you're getting this gorgeous nutrient-dense package. And so those are the things that I say to folks. What's culturally relevant, what's accessible, what's affordable. Choose 3 of them, put them into your routine, then go find something else that you don't know that's plant-based, add it in, and then think about how can you cross-pollinate, mix 3, 4, 5, 6 different vegetables together to actually increase the nutrient density of the meal, and also have things that you may not always eat or may not always love on your plate.
I love that, and thank you for saying that, because there's topics I catch that I haven't talked about enough. We do these root universities. We have about 300,000 people across the world that use different products that we have on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And I try to educate, without lecturing, because I don't believe lecturing works.
Agreed.
Because it doesn't work with my personality. Like, I don't really love to be lectured. I love to learn, though.
Yeah.
And I love to get better every day. So that's always my goal. And maybe we can have you on a Root U and you can talk to our audience, because they want to hear from experts. They want to understand. They want to learn. And I truly believe mothers, fathers, people at home can be as educated as a doctor or nutritionist as it pertains to a lot of things. I think you don't just learn it in a textbook.
I agree.
Yeah.
I feel like I learn from my patients so much. So I started telling this story recently. When I went to school for nutrition, we learned like you put people with diabetes on a 1,300 calorie diet with no added sugar and no this and no that. And we were very restrictive. That's what we were taught. And so like when I first got out of school, oh my goodness, I completely replicated that. And
I do the same thing. You know how it is when you're younger. I mean, I don't mean that rudely. Some people that are younger get it before, but it took me years.
Same.
To like, it was just like it went in, and would regurgitate it and go out. I tell you, the biggest thing that caused me to be different wasn't my education. It was the travel.
Yes.
Because when I'm in a village in Africa or South Africa,
Yeah.
or in Malaysia, let's just pick a country, I'm learning things and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yep.
This wasn't taught in school. Like, I was in Malaysia. A couple of times this has happened. I was in Africa at some of the villages that they invited me to. And then I was in Malaysia, where I saw people use turmeric curcumin to get rid of parasites. I actually saw people put it in a wound. And then I also saw them use it in an IV along with black cumin seed oil, Nigella sativa, because they are known, right? Not only are they chocked full of everything we need, they're known for basically, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen, just the parasites running out of the body.
Wow.
Because the parasites don't want to be around this turmeric curcumin because it's so pure, because they were using pure turmeric curcumin, and it blew my mind.
That's incredible.
And these people were diagnosed with cancer, and I don't, I've seen so many miracles in my life. I'm just going to be really honest. I don't know what other people call them. In science, like when I worked for pharmaceutical and biotech, we didn't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
We would have someone that was getting ready to die, and we were getting ready to put them on a molecule or an injection or an IV, or a new formulation that we had worked on that wasn't approved because in investigator-sponsored trials, if there's no hope for that person, you can put them in a study. Then we'd go in to start it, and they were better. Wow. And usually the things I caught every time is their families had some kind of, it didn't matter the religion, spiritual belief, and they were positive thinking, like we're gonna surround you with these positive thoughts and prayers. And the second thing I saw, and I was fascinated because I was raised in a home that was a Christian home, and it was fascinating to see it wasn't just one religion. Right. It was different religions, and then other was food or supplements. And I have to be really careful in the role that I have, because you can't claim you're going to cure something. Correct. And the truth is, the only person that can cure anything is not us, human beings. If you look at pharmaceuticals and biotech, and I believe there's such a strong place for those in our world, but if you look at it, you look at that world, they're never saying they're going to cure you. Right. Even with cancer.
It's a treatment.
It's a treatment. And I don't think people realize it. I think they go to the doctor, they get a medication, and they think they're cured. Right.
And I think that is a really interesting nuance. And I see it a lot in the nutrition space. And one of the things that I like to remind people is that nutrition can be adjuvant therapy, and we can have extraordinary outcomes. However, it now becomes the prescription. Yeah. And so if I have someone who comes to me and they say, listen, I don't want to take medication for my high blood pressure, I'd say to them, okay, we're going to give you 3 months for behavior change. I expect you to monitor your blood pressure the same exact way that your primary care and your cardiologist has requested. And then we're going to see if your behavior change and nutrition gives us the outcome that we're looking for.
What are your things you're telling them to do?
So I absolutely talk, from a nutrition perspective, I absolutely talk about paying attention to increasing potassium, right? So I say, listen, I want to see a lot more plants in your pattern of eating. Of course, I want to reduce the sodium. And interestingly enough, we talk about foods that have salt in them that they may not expect. Yeah. So we talk about becoming an informed consumer with packaged goods. And I also say to them that, like, I'm going to share information with you. However, you have to make the choice of whether or not you want to implement this and at what intensity. Yeah. Because
you can't make decisions for people. That's been the hardest thing for me. I can't change someone's life. Right. Especially, and I'm not, but like, I can't make someone listen to me. Correct. Either. Correct. They may say it to my face and then they walk outside. Right. Like, another thing I would add, for me, I always talk about stress.
Oh, yes. And rest.
And rest and water. Water is a basic, but you're like, why is stress? Because stress can take all of that out of the water. Yeah. Everything. And people have a hard time accepting that.
They do. And I'll tell you something also, too. When I'm working with women, I talk about, well, what are the responsibilities that are both seen and unseen that you have? And what is the toll that it takes on you? And then if it's a woman of color, let's talk about the double burden.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So we definitely go through all those things.
Yeah.
And then I also say, listen, if this doesn't work, there is no shame in using pharmacology to support you, because my goal is to keep you living.
I love that. I love that. You know, my mother was Cherokee and Choctaw Indian. And so your Native Americans, you know, it's a different culture.
100%.
And you're living off the land, and you have
Yep.
different beliefs. And I wasn't raised on the reservation.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. When I was little, I remember we weren't supposed to talk about we were Native American because, and you know, I have blue eyes. I mean, I know I get really dark, but like even if I'm out in the sun for an hour, I'm dark. But it was interesting. They didn't want us to because of how my great grandmother was treated.
Right.
She had to ride in the back of the truck or they wouldn't even back then. It was like black people. They
Yep.
didn't let you were treated differently.
That's right.
And she was made fun of. And she married a very wealthy man, but still her challenges never went away. Does that make sense? I remember her being embarrassed about different things that were said. And I remember kind of the shame of it. Does that make sense? I shouldn't have felt that. It was wrong, but it's still this extra pressure on your life. And I say this a lot, and I don't know if people resonate with this, but from my perspective, and this is speaking from a woman that a lot of times I'm the only white woman in a room. Like I spoke at the Middle Eastern Medical Society, and I'm the only woman that's white. And I felt like some people, well, I know they said really mean things to me. Some people wanted to spit on me. Some people did not like me, you know, being there. There's this burden, right, that comes along with that, and there's this stress. And I say it all the time. It hasn't gotten that much better.
Right.
We act like it has.
Right.
But in my opinion, it hasn't.
I agree. I think that when we look at the impact and the toll that these implicit biases take on the human body, and then especially in the U.S., when we look at the impact and toll, especially with regard to access to food, especially the types of food that provide those beneficial health outcomes, it is incredibly challenging. If I have a patient, for example, that lives in an area where they have to take 2 buses, or they have, I mean, you're bringing back maybe 2 bags of groceries. You're not coming back with anything more than that. And don't try to have more than one job. No. Because then really nutrition is not at the top of the list. Rest is not at the top of the list. Neither is stress reduction. I can say all the wonderful things about being barefoot in the grass, and they're like, do you know where I live?
Well, and they're like, do you know that I'm just trying to get food for my children?
Exactly.
They don't care if it's healthy. They just want them to eat something. And there's no judgment from my side, because I haven't walked in their shoes, and I hope people listen to this. This message for me is so important. We think it's as easy for one person to eat healthy as another, and that is completely incorrect.
Correct.
If you don't have the money, if you're stressed, if you're suffering from racism, if you're suffering from abuse, I could go on and on. You don't have that ability. And not only this, and I'm going to speak as a scientist that really works with the IL-2, IL-4 pathways, P450 system in the body, they're blocked when you're stressed.
That's right.
So you could eat all this nutrition, but if you're constantly worried, or you're in constant poverty, then you're not receiving all of that benefits like this wealthy woman that's, you know, traveling all over. I'm just being honest. And I think people, that's why my heart, like, oh my gosh, someone said to me the other day about being humble. And I said, listen, I almost died of cancer. When I was 25, 26, I had Lyme disease. I've been humbled many times, right? Humbled in a way where I could feel other people. So I'm glad I've been humbled. I'm glad I go into situations, you know, in Ethiopia, I mean, where I'm the only, I mean, I was there during the inauguration, and I sat with the family. You know, they have the first female mayor that's over, it's like 2/3 the size of the United States, and she's governing it, right? Incredible. And I went to her house afterwards. I'm the only, you know, I'm white, and I'm there, but you know what? People are kind to me and gracious, and if we could just give that back, each one of us, and if we could also remember the shame, the fear, the anger, the hurt, the pain when people hurt us, we would change things. And no one thinks about this as it pertains to nutrition.
I agree.
But I want people to understand nutrition is not just what you put in your mouth. It's what's happening in your body.
And you know what I also say to my patients too, because I appreciate you highlighting the fact that you can eat as many nutritious foods as you want and it doesn't always work. I talk to my patients and I say, when you're under stress, I want you to imagine that you actually require more trace minerals.
Yeah.
Right? And those micronutrients to actually get you back to a place of balance because you're literally burning through everything. 100%. And so I actually tell them, I say, so imagine you say, think about an athlete, right? So the athlete's out there pumping and working. I said, but when you're under stress, that's silent work that you don't see.
Oh, 100%. So I'm so glad you mentioned this because this is I get questioned on this all the time. Why do you have so many trace minerals in your products? I'm like, because if you're remediating the body or the land.
Yeah, exactly. You got to feed.
You got to have these trace minerals. Yeah. And then I have people who are like, well, you're using too many. You're using too much magnesium. And I'm like, listen, I'm using the right kind because there's different kinds too. You know that of trace minerals, of magnesium, of salt. You know, there's different. People have to really understand. And that's why I think going to someone like you that can help them if they'll listen.
That's right. I mean, you can, like I say this, in the relationship that's back and forth, it's really patient-centered. And I always say to people, what are the shifts that you're willing to make?
Yeah.
And for how long? It is up to you to choose.
Yeah. And so what is your success rate with that?
That's a great question. So I don't know that I've ever, that's funny.
You should track that. You know why I'm asking? Because in pharma, we used to track, because if you have 40-50%, it's a success, right? And the reason this is so important to me, we started this patient registry and we have all these, we bought patents, we've gathered data from these countries. I want to compare it because I'm like you. It's a prescription. You either follow it or you don't. But you got to understand, if you don't, it's like Zithromax is an antibiotic. If you have pneumonia or bronchitis or sinusitis and you take that, but you don't take all of it, you actually are making your body worse. And I love how you said that. So you should track that because I bet you have as much or more success. I'm like you. If you need a pharmaceutical, you need to take it, right? And I'm the first person to say, because people always think, because I do a lot of natural things, that I'm against that industry, and I'm not.
Yeah.
I loved my jobs there. I loved the fact that we were trying to help people. I also understood the negative side effects. Mm-hmm. But there's negative side effects to eating bad food, too.
For example. And also if you take incorrect supplementation.
100%. Thank you for bringing that up.
Negative side effects.
Why doesn't anyone talk about that?
I know.
I'm really frustrated about that, which is another reason for the registry, because it's like when someone asks me, no, I don't take everything that I make. I take other products I don't make, right? It's like cooking food at your house. You don't always eat at your house. But there's some of the things I make that are not made for me. Does that make sense? Like some of them are exactly what I wanted and needed for my body. So I'm a scientist, so I made them. Or I needed them for my children or my family. But some of them are not for my body. They're not what I need. And people have a hard time understanding that, right? Everyone's DNA is different. Your blood type's different. How you react, what you do is different. But the frustrating thing about me is people are attacking an industry that has saved lives because of some negative things that have happened along the way. And I understand both sides of that. But they're not understanding that supplements can do the same thing.
Right.
Like, you have to be very careful. You can't just, I get very upset, honestly. We have some products that are adaptogenics and nootropics. Mm-hmm. And they really help me. Like, if I don't take one in the morning, and I this one product is called Zero In, and I developed it for sexual dysfunction with women, because women I hate categorizing genders, so I apologize for doing this.
No, absolutely. But there is a stage in our life where
it's not as easy.
No,
it's not like you're in your teens or 20s where it's just like you're tired, you're working, and it's emotional, right, and mental. So I worked on this product called Zero In, and I love it, but I don't take it at night for that. I take one in the morning because we ended up looking at the increase in performance overall, not just sexually, and cognitive functioning. For me, I was like, okay, I've got to have the cognitive functioning. I've got to, and I'm not great at drinking a lot of coffee.
I don't think anyone is. Sorry to cut you off. I think that people believe that they are, and then they're like,
that's what I think. You
totally
shouldn't have a
shaky, and then they're not sleeping, and they're like, I'm fine, and I'm like, you're actually not.
Well, I know, and I use a caffeine adjournus, and I use a green tea, but I clean the tea. So this is another thing that I do. I'm cleaning out the toxins and all the antigens and all the allergens and heavy metals. And I'm just going to say this, as much as it upsets people, fungus and parasites. Someone said to me the other day, what do you mean spinach or a plant can have a virus or bacteria? I'm like, well, how do you guys, what does everyone think about E. coli and salmonella and all this stuff? People just don't put it together.
I know.
And so for me, but if they take more than that's recommended on the bottle, I get very upset. And if you ask me why, it's because I do understand there's some things, even natural, that are good for you that you can have too much of.
Of course.
Explain that to the audience, because I feel like I never explained that right. They're like, what do you mean you can have too much of something? Yeah.
So here's a perfect example. So I said fiber is at the top of my list.
Yes.
If you have too much fiber, the food that you eat will actually move through your system so quickly that you don't absorb it, and you'll have increased bowel movements.
That's my issue.
Right?
So we should just tell the whole world that. I'm into fiber, right? Because my grandmother... So my great-grandmother was one Cherokee and Choctaw, and then my grandmother that came from, my great-grandmother actually raised my mom, because in those cultures, people had kids when they were really young, right? So anyway, it was fiber. And so in my head, I just keep hearing her, Christina, you have to have fiber, which I love the fact that it makes that easier for me, but I also am smart enough to know I'm taking too much fiber. I know better. You know how you do things sometimes.
And some people think it's great. They're like, I've had 6 bowel movements today. And I'm like, well, no. I mean, 1 or 2, fine, right? I mean, yeah, I know, right?
We're talking about it. It's true, though.
But it's very true. And so I think that the other thing, too, that I often say, and this is an unpopular opinion, when you've taken every single supplement on the planet, because I do have patients that come to me and they just take any supplement that they've seen online, and there's no third-party testing, there's no research.
And you have to have third-party testing, GMP certification, NSF, organic. People don't know that.
Exactly. And so they think that they're doing something great for their body, and they're taking all of these supplements, and then they go to the bathroom and the toilet, and they urinate, and it is like Technicolor all day long. Yeah. And so then I say to them, I understand that you feel like it's working. That's likely the water-soluble vitamins. Yeah. Because your cells are saturated. And they're like, I've taken everything in, spilling out. And so then I say, this is an opportunity for you actually to evaluate what's serving you, what's not.
It's really great.
Sitting with a qualified healthcare provider who actually understands supplementation. Yeah. Taking a look at your labs.
Who's not the person making it. I want to say this. Because I'm the scientist that makes it. So people get very upset with me. I will answer basic questions, but here's what I always say. Listen, I'm biased. Yeah. I worked on this, but you did all this stuff. I know. And I would never intentionally ever... there's no need in my life to ever, and there hasn't been, to lie or mislead but there may be a salesperson that works in our company or says something, that I would not say. I don't think everything's for everyone, for example. And I definitely know that one product cannot cure everything.
That's right. That's exactly
or anything. And I tell people that, and they get very frustrated with me because they were like, well, I don't understand why you're not answering the questions. And I say, a third party needs to answer that. Right. You need to send off for third party testing. And then I, of course, am not mean about it, but I'm like, talk to your nutritionist. And then they come back and they're like, well, my nutritionist wants to know more about the product, or my dietitian. Yeah. And I'm like, then let's send them information. Yeah. But then I say, they may choose this isn't right for you. And that's okay too, because I am really tired of people saying that doctors are bad because they're treating the way. What about all of us? We all need to look at humanity. I agree. Not to make money, but to help each other. It's really important.
What I appreciate that you said that, and it's so funny. So we had a meeting earlier this week with some of the dietitians on the team, and we're talking about, we run groups. Yeah. And one of the dietitians, the senior dietitian, she said, let's implement this into our groups where we start at the beginning and we say to people, what are you all struggling with? Yeah. Right? Because we're very patient-centered. And so she was like, let's do this across all groups, right? What are you struggling with? And then we actually are addressing the confusion and the points that people are coming with. Because just as you said, so many people will say to us in one-on-one sessions like, oh, I feel like I'm not being heard, or I feel like, it's not individualized. And so then we're saying like, okay, we hear you. But then I realized that not every provider actually trust the lived experience of the person that they're taking care of.
That's true. That's very, very true. So they don't, yeah.
They
And
don't-
and honestly, most doctors, I'm just being really candid.
Yeah.
It's not all.
Yeah.
Most do not study this area
No.
for a living. And if you said to me, well, they're not a good doctor, here's my answer. That's not their area
of expertise.
It's okay.
Right.
Right. But they're there for other areas, right?
And that's where dietitians come in. And then I also think for my profession, one of the things that I've done is I've said, okay, this is what I was taught.
Yeah.
Where are the areas that I need to expand my understanding?
Yeah.
And then how do I have to become a person who can really read the research,
Yeah.
interpret it, and understand, okay, so maybe this study had a small N number or sample size, right? Maybe the people that they were studying, it was only 60 of them. But can I find it in other places in the world?
Yeah.
Have other people researched
like
it?
a meta-analysis.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you're supposed to have 365, 380,
Exactly.
86, something like that, for statistical significance.
That's right.
But I do the same thing. So then if I can't find it, and it's a small number, it's not that I don't believe it.
That's right.
I look for a meta-analysis, or I look for other studies I can add. And a lot of that internally.
Yeah.
Because another thing about us is we have access to all these countries.
Which is
and interpreters.
incredible.
Yeah, so we get to see stuff. The issue is in the United States, I'm just going to go back to this.
I know.
Unless it's traditional,
I know.
people aren't used to it. Like you were raised, my kids are the same way. They've traveled all over, right? So they don't think everything's the same.
Right.
But New York's a little different. Most Americans have been, I can't even tell you how many times I'm criticized because they're in this box and then we're showing, and amazing. I don't think anyone's any less because they haven't traveled. But the issue is when you've traveled, it opens your eyes and you see different types of medicine, different types of science. They're not teaching in a textbook.
And on top of it, so I recently have fallen in love with Finland. My best friend is Finnish and she's married to a Kenyan fellow.
We had an exchange student from Finland growing up. Amazing.
Oh,
She
incredible.
taught me how to drink, yeah.
They-
I don't know if she taught me. She got upset when I was at a party because I wouldn't drink, so she dumped it on my head. But she was amazing. Tia was her name.
You're like, aside from that.
It's a great culture.
But so the thing that's very interesting for me, and I understand that this is not always actually it's not widely accessible in the U.S., but the connection with nature, and then also kind of the connection with downtime.
Yeah.
And I do think, at least I'm seeing more and more with the kids that come into our practice, that this constantly being on actually reshapes the relationship with how and when they eat versus, so let me say it this way, how and when they eat a meal versus when they're snacking. So
Tell me about that. That's really interesting because I notice it too. Like, I'll say, can everyone sit down?
I know, right?
I just want everyone to sit down. I don't know why this is a big deal for me, but my children and actually my husband will come in and they just are eating, but they're not eating. Like, I'm like, can we all sit down and enjoy and chew our food?
Together?
Together. Like, just chew your food. Do you know what someone said to me the other day? Well, actually, I've had a lot of people. I'm looking at my whole group is like, you eat so slow. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm trying to chew it because that's how you're supposed to chew it.
That's right.
So how are you supposed to chew it when you're walking around and talking while you're eating?
So we have so many families that will come to us, and one of the things that we talk about is how's food getting into the home?
Yeah.
How's it being prepared? And what does the family table look like? What we see is, at least in New York, and we have people around the country because we offer virtual sessions, but when we're seeing families in New York, what we're hearing from them is everybody's overscheduled and overcommitted.
Yeah.
And if it is a two-parent household that's working, the hours are extraordinarily long, even for people that have single jobs. And for people that have multiple jobs, it's Monday through Sunday, right? So there's no longer this idea that people are working Monday through Friday and there's a 9 to 5, 24 hours a day. Work could happen anytime.
I can tell you for us, because there's no way. Like, it's 7 days a week.
Yep.
And I know it's not healthy.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? But
100%.
It's not.
And then kids, right? So the adult caregivers, and just like you said, so you were raised by your No, your mom was raised by the great grandma.
Well, I have to tell you, I was raised a lot by my grandmothers because it's part of our culture.
Exactly.
Because I'm from a little bit of a different culture, and so it's just part of it. Like that's why I work the way I work, because if I'm all the women in my family worked, but there are other, like the grandparents helped raise the children. Yeah.
And we don't see that in the modern American family.
No,
the
you don't.
intergeneration kind of nature, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
And so it's funny, I'm not saying that everyone needs to stay home. By all means, I am not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that the speed at which we're living and this desire to be constantly connected and on is taking a toll on our ability to have downtime, our ability to actually sit and enjoy a meal. And then it also becomes significantly harder to say, like, you know, I'm going to go grocery shopping and I'm going to cook. I know not everyone loves to cook. Right.
So
who has time for that? Let's just bring something in. Uber Eats.
I don't know. My favorite thing to do is grocery shop.
I mean, me too.
I don't know why.
So much time in the farmer's market.
I feel like I'm just having so much fun. I love shopping. I actually love cooking, but you're right. It takes time. So if I'm getting home at 9, 10, 11 at night or working on, there's no way.
Right.
And I miss our family eating the way we used to. Now, my kids are older.
Yeah.
They love food. They are in love with food a lot more than I am, because I'm picky.
Yeah.
You know, it has to be something I really love.
Mm-hmm.
And I
I appreciate that. What do you love? I want to know.
I love everyone in the company. They all try to get me to eat.
Okay.
Because they're always worried. They're like, Christina, 2 bites. Because that's my thing, 2 bites. So I love avocados.
Oh, high fiber.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, that's the thing. I would eat them all day.
Yeah.
I would sit there. I know I shouldn't just eat them all day. I just did this thing on omega-3, omega-6s.
Yeah.
It's not good to eat just that, right?
Right. No.
No.
I'll tell you something really funny.
But I could.
You could.
If someone
You'd be
needed to.
fine. You and the Caribbean folks, avocado with everything. They're like, of course.
That's
like,
me.
Yeah.
I mean, I can just, Joy Smallwood, who's our creative director and one of my closest friends, she's the same way. If you had the two of us traveling around the world, we would just be eating chips and guacamole. I also love fish.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was trying to think of what else my favorite. Well, you're not going to hear this, but I love chocolate.
Why? Chocolate's fantastic.
I don't know. My grandmother, the same one that taught me about fiber,
Yeah.
told me to eat dark chocolate.
So it's interesting. I have to say, across a number of cultures, I see people having things like dates and dark chocolate together.
I love dates too.
Right?
Another thing. Yeah.
I also see dark chocolate showing up like on its own. I mean, I see it across quite a few cultures.
I eat dark chocolate almost always with like pistachios.
Yeah.
So I love stuff like pistachios, almonds, just basics.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit hard for me if I sit down, if I see a bunch of food touching each other, there may be one thing I like, but the fact that there's things touching each other, this is going to sound crazy. It bothers me. I really want just a few things.
Yeah.
Like you go back to, you talked about the village and how they had these basics. Sweet potato is another one of my favorite things.
There you go.
They're just bananas, another one.
Delicious.
They're just basic.
You're like naming all of the foods from the places that you travel to. And I think that it's like just become such a part of you that now that's from your work, you just love those things.
Yeah, you know why? Because I go places and I'm scared to eat things where I'm going to get sick.
Mm-hmm.
I used to love raw fish. I don't eat raw fish anymore and I love oysters, but I rarely eat those. Because another issue about me is I know about the bacteria and the parasites. I know that we have a fungal and parasitic outbreak in different countries, and there's different mutations since the virus. And I still remember when the virus hit, I had been in Asian countries and in the Middle East. Anyway, I knew 6 months before. I used to work in Wuhan. I worked in all these countries.
So you were ahead.
I knew the doctors and stuff. Yeah, but the problem was I told my closest friends in my family, and they all made fun of me. Mm-hmm. They knew what I did for a living, but they're like, Christina, there's no way. Because I said the world's going to shut down for 2 to 5 years is what I said. It's going to be a rough 2 years. But no one I didn't want to believe that.
Right. Because it sounds so foreign. Actually, a very dear friend of mine was in Rome, And she actually sent me a message, and she's a war photographer, and she said, heed the precautions, I'll never forget. And then I said, oh my goodness, if she's saying heed the precautions, this has to be real, because she's 100%. Traveled everywhere.
Well, plus, you're in Rome. I've done a lot with the Vatican and the Science Pontification Academy. I was on the board of the World Changers Summit, so I met with the Pope and the cardinals and all those people. We worked on scientific projects, and they would bring in scientists from all over the world. I have not had as much time this year because I took over manufacturing this year.
Okay.
Because I didn't trust that the manufacturing was being done the way I wanted, so I took it over. But they know there, just so you know, because they have, the Vatican has your top scientists from all over the world, so they know before a lot of people will accept it. I actually took my son to the doctor. When I came back, he got sick, and I told my friends that were doctors, but they couldn't test it because the assay wasn't there. So
that's right.
Our country just didn't want to.
It took some time for us to
time. And so for me, it was, it really, hopefully that age, that era taught people that time frame in our life. And listen, do you have kids?
I've got 2 children. Yep.
So my kids were like,
they were home.
This has never happened. And they were scared, right?
Yeah.
I was like, well, this has never happened to me either.
Right.
I tried to explain, this is something new for all of us. But I used that time to try to educate more about food and to educate the importance, because I wanted people to plant seeds. I grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
I'm like, people need to start planting their own things. Now, you had your conspiracies and everyone that was saying, and we have a farm. That my reason was what you said earlier. We've got to get back to farming and remediation. We've got to take care of our land, because I understood too that Russia was on this mad plan, not mad plan. I would do that. I understand what they were doing. They want to buy the cattle. They want to produce the food, and so does the Middle East. Because if they can have that, then they're not relying on another country. And that's something I want America to bring back. I want us to understand how important farming is. We can't sell our farmland to everyone internationally and not control our own food.
Right. I mean, one of the things that I saw I also have to name the fact that there were plenty, because I was here in New York, there were so many people, especially first responders, that were out there that had a very different experience, right? The folks that had to go to work.
Oh, yeah.
So the rest of us could get our groceries delivered to our doorstep, right?
We actually never ended up, because I was doing emergency authorization for a pharmaceutical company during that time period. We were trying to help with the lungs, and we actually had success, but they didn't approve it, because you know how they had.
Yeah, that's right.
So I know it was very different. I just loved, though, the fact that when I got on the road or wherever I went, it was calmer.
There were birds everywhere.
I know. It was amazing.
It was very quiet.
It was amazing, that part. There's a lot of things that were not good. How did your kids react to it?
So for my kids, we were home. We're lucky enough to live in a house, which I know is New York City in-house, but we live in Brooklyn, so that's a little more common there.
That's nice.
Yeah, and we have a backyard, so we had space.
John Sally was from Brooklyn, right? Was he? Do you know?
No, I don't.
Do you know the basketball player?
No, wait. I know. Oh, my goodness. I know nothing about sports.
Don't worry about it. He introduced me to my husband, is why I brought that up.
Oh, my gosh. That's incredible.
I think he's from Brooklyn. Anyway, go ahead. I
love
that.
Okay, I love it. Now everyone knows.
No, because there's not a lot of houses in New York, and he lived in there are houses in Brooklyn.
There are a lot of houses in Brooklyn.
Listen, I've looked at them. Because my daughter thought about going to school here, and so I looked at houses over there.
Come, Brooklyn Heights.
It wasn't that. It was pretty affordable.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
This
was during COVID.
Oh, yeah,
Listen,
yeah.
I could have
You could have gotten a deal.
Everyone's trying to get out.
You could have gotten a deal. Now, no. Now everyone's moving to Brooklyn because they're like, wow, it's gorgeous here. Yeah.
It is gorgeous.
Yeah.
I love Brooklyn. Yeah.
But my kids, it was interesting. We did a lot of cooking together. We did a whole DIY.
How did you get food?
So it was...
I'm sorry I'm asking that.
No, it's totally fine.
Because I just remember this whole period. We had 4 kids, and
So this is gonna sound really special. So I have a lot of friends that are chefs, and there were some of the purveyors that would supply restaurants switched over to residential. However, you would have to purchase incredibly large quantities.
Yeah.
And so we would do these huge orders. Like I had 50 pounds of black beans, pinto beans, like huge orders. And then I would actually just knock on my neighbor's door and be like, hey, I've got 5 organic chickens. Yeah. Would you like, all of them for your freezer because I had to order 20.
Yeah.
And so I did that.
You know, we did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Bought a cow. I mean, we bought
Yeah.
everything organic. We bought everything. And I had, what do we have, 11 freezers and refrigerators in our house? Stephanie would know. My husband went and bought like everything. Because our thought was we want to have enough food for everyone.
Yeah.
So our thought was we want our friends and
Yeah.
family to have food.
Yeah.
That's interesting that we did the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did that. And it was also a time where I actually did a lot of writing in COVID. And I started writing more about health equity.
Yeah.
And also
I love that.
really taking a look at like, what are the variables that people need in rural, urban, and suburban areas to be healthy, but not just like that superficial healthy, but like, what does well-being mean?
Yeah.
When we look across communities, how does nutrition play into it? How do the things like you said around stress reduction and access to safe spaces to move,
Yeah.
what does that really mean if we're going to talk about health in the U.S. from a public health perspective?
Does your book talk about because I love this topic. Someone
Yeah.
needs to write about, because people think of nutrition, like I said, or a diet or what you're doing or science as it applies to everyone. If someone could really write about the difference in cultures
Yeah.
and racism and different, I mean, I think it needs
Yeah.
to be addressed. And I don't think, I can't write, I've written enough books. We have a sex book that's getting ready to come out that is
Oh, I
about
can't wait for that.
sexual health. It
Yeah.
involves nutrition, so
Oh,
you're going to be
awesome.
interested in it. Yeah. It involves imprinting too,
Yeah.
and like different aspects, because I feel like I think kids get that from their parents, but then our schools teach it. But I really want the science part
Yeah.
taught, because there's so many changes that have occurred in our
I agree.
world.
I agree.
And none of them bother me. Like I always say, whatever religion, whatever sexual preference, it's not my job on this earth. My job's to love and to nurture and to care. We all have a different purpose, but mine's not the other. You know,
Yeah.
it's to really raise awareness. Someone needs to write a book about that, though.
Yeah, I agree.
You should.
I agree. I mean, perhaps maybe.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
About the cultures,
Yeah.
and the economy, and
Yeah.
how nutrition is not the same
Yeah.
across. Because
I-
if there's a book like that, I haven't read it.
No, I mean, so I've read a couple of great books. Dr. Uche Blackstock wrote an amazing book called Legacy, looking at racism in medicine.
I have read that. I have read that. That's a great book.
So good, so good.
I think everyone needs to read that book.
Agreed.
I think regardless of your gender,
Yeah.
your culture, you need to read that book.
Agreed.
It's a really good book.
But you're right. I have not seen a book looking at kind of all the ways that we intersect in terms of nutrition and also culture. And I often say in Eating from Our Roots in the Front Matter, which is quite small because it's a cookbook, but it is a global cookbook.
Yeah.
And really, it was my invitation for people to actually take their taste buds like around the world, and as a way to kind of open their minds
Yeah.
to different food ways that are inherently healthy.
That's
yeah.
really great. I think just to add this, because the sex book's coming out, if you have like syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, which none of us do, I want to say that because
Yeah,
I've
that's
said stuff
correct,
before.
correct.
None of us have it.
Correct.
Not that, because sometimes
Yeah.
I've said stuff and then our followers will be,
They'll
it's
be like-
Christina, okay? I am okay. That impacts nutrition. Did
Right.
you know? Like that impacts your microbiome of the entire body.
So there was, I was on a panel, it had to be last fall, amazing, talking about the vaginal microbiome.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
It's amazing. People don't talk about it
Not
enough.
not nearly enough.
No.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's funny, we don't see the connection between the microbes that are in our body, the good bugs, and I'm not going to be scary and just say, the bad bugs, but we don't see...
Because we have both, everyone.
Exactly.
I just want everyone to know
We've
that
got
people
both.
don't
We've
understand.
got
We come to this earth with bacteria and parasites.
That's right.
And all this stuff. I'm glad you said that, because most people don't know that. When you tell them, they're shocked.
Right. And the other thing that I would say, too, I spoke with Colin Hill, who's this incredible research out of Cork, and he said a statement that I think I just will repeat forever. He said, "You have the microbiome that you deserve." And it was in relation to a question that I asked him about people living in the Amazon, because there's research looking at how their microbiome is
Yeah.
different. And so I don't think that people really understand that if you live in an urban center, and let's say you live near a water processing plant, you're going to have a very different microbiome than someone who lives in nature. And we do know from research that kids who live in urban centers near power plants and all of these processing plants tend to have higher rates of asthma.
They do. And going back to even like UTI infections,
Right.
fungal infections, I educate people. Don't know that a vaginal yeast infection is transmitted in sex.
Right.
So if a female has it, she transfers it to the
Right.
male, but because the penis is different, I'm not trying to
Right.
that microbiome
It's
right
totally
is exchanging.
different. Yes.
And then people don't understand that men don't feel the same symptoms as women.
Exactly.
So they're not knowing that's transferred. So that's one of the things I educate on a lot. And let me add this. If you ask me how does it apply to diet and nutrition, well, let me just tell you this. If you're eating sugar,
Right.
or you're drinking a lot of
Alcohol, it's going to have an impact.
It's not going to go away. It's going to, we call it proliferation.
Yep, 100%.
It's just growing everywhere.
And I also say to my patients, so like, let's say you take an antibiotic, then they say, oh, I'm going to start taking probiotics. And I say, well, hold on. Like, you're taking an antibiotic.
Yeah.
We're going to wait one moment before you bring the probiotics back in, but then we're also going to have to feed you prebiotics as well.
Yeah, people don't understand the prebiotics and the probiotics. I also, because I worked at Pfizer at one point, I was educated by some of the top infectious disease doctors that deal with fungus, Rex and Rinaldi. And I mean, I've seen surgeries where there's just like mushrooms growing out of people's heads or their bodies. It's really, really important that you understand that fungus can grow throughout the body. 50% of the people in a morgue die from fungus and not from the bacterial infection, because the fungus takes over. So when you're taking an antibiotic, you need to either eat certain foods or take diflucan or fluconazole or something, because a lot of people's bodies, including mine, are basically, the microbiome is sensitive to yeast and sugar, right? Because they're connected.
That's right.
And so you just have to be educated on that.
I mean, I have patients, and without disclosing anything, but I have a number of patients who actually are dealing with fungus and yeast on a regular basis within their body. And it is extreme. Like, those are very extreme cases. And the nutrition for that is quite prescriptive.
It's huge for them. They have to understand that.
Right. And when there's a flare, we're actually talking about parts of their body where they have significant systemic changes. There's a lot of coughing and phlegm and the esophagus.
I'm surprised they even know that, because it's one of the most underdiagnosed. And I don't know if you know this, but the assay that tests for fungus has like a 50% negative positive. So a lot of people have fungus and don't realize it.
Yeah, well, this I've got a few patients, but the patients that I'm working with, their providers are excellent.
That's
and
wonderful.
They're in a really great hospital system.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And that makes all the difference. I just want to tell the audience this. First of all, how do people find you? Where will they find you? Your book that I did not get.
I cannot
Let
believe
me add that.
I did not
get a book.
You know what?
Next time we'll do a podcast and we'll talk about your book.
Yeah, okay, yeah, absolutely. I know, and I told you.
And then I'm looking for the new book you're writing.
Right. You know, that you just you called it into existence, and it actually is a fantastic idea.
Hey, listen.
It is an incredible
idea. I could help you promote that, because I there's not enough time for all of us to do everything, but that's a topic I feel like people need to know about.
I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
So where's the book that I don't have?
So where's the book that you don't have that
but you know what? Willie loves you, so it's okay.
I know. She
must go home with you.
This is very special moment here. Very special moment. Yeah. So Eating from Our Roots, folks can find it everywhere that books are sold. And then people can find me across social media, Maya Feller Nutrition. We have an amazing array of classes, which I'm really excited about, because it's a spot for people to come together, be in community, but also get fantastic nutrition education. And we focus on diabetes, cardiovascular disease. We also do a series on reframing relationship with food.
That's great.
And then I have a quarterly, kind of just like a reset, but it's not a diet. It's a let's reframe in a seasonal sense and think about what we have space to add in from that nutrition perspective. So as the seasons shift, like, what can you put on your plate that's seasonal, and how does that actually serve your body? So
I love that you brought up during this conversation the relationship with food, because this is another interesting thing I do. I actually kind of not talk to the food. I'm not hallucinating. I actually feel like there's a relationship with the food.
Yeah.
So if I'm not honoring that I'm eating something that's so nutritious for my body, then my body won't recognize it as
Right.
much. So for me, and again, that's another reason I think I'm slower to eat, because I'm trying in my mind. It probably comes from my culture and how I was raised, because you're Native American.
I was about to say
Yeah.
that. That's very
You're honoring the land.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
100%. In indigenous cultures across the globe, there is this idea that we are grateful for,
Oh, yeah.
right? Because we know that without the land, how can we sustain ourselves?
Oh, yeah. There was not a meal I had growing up where I wasn't told to bow my head and silently ask God to be thankful for the food, just the food. And then all of a sudden I'm an adult and no one's telling the food I'm thankful, or
Right.
telling, like, thank you for feeding me.
And not to do a quick tangent, and I know that we're wrapping, but I do think that what you just said is profoundly powerful, because if we think about how we interact with the foods that serve us, many of the times what I see when people come to me is that when they engage in the mindless activity of consuming foods that actually are not beneficial for their body, there's not a recollection that it's happened.
You're right.
In New York, there's a lot of walking down the street and eating. You see kids in strollers, lots of hand to mouth of all of these things that are just very easy to consume.
And they won't even remember eating it.
Right. And I understand that it's a function of society and that it's not necessarily the fault of the individual. It's not at all the fault of the individual. But I do think that this act of pausing and saying, I acknowledge this moment,
Yeah, I agree.
has become a luxury.
Yeah. I mean, I know exactly what I ate today, because I do still say thank you, when I'm eating. So I had a fig, I had a piece of brie, and a blackberry, and one nut, one almond, I think. Yeah.
And
And if you ask me, do I have anorexia or bulimia? No. I just am very conscious of what I'm putting inside. And there are days I eat things I know they're not good for me.
Yeah. And that's part of it. We have to have space for all of it.
Oh, yeah.
What
Yeah.
we want is that the celebration foods
I
stay
agree.
celebration.
It's a big deal.
And that it's not the mainstay.
Yeah.
And that's part of the challenge and the shift in this country, is that what was once a celebration food has become easily and readily accessible in abundance.
Really great point. I really enjoyed today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having
Starting
me.
from when you came in, you did acknowledge Wilhelmina first, but
And then I
that made all the difference.
And then I very quickly said, "Oh my goodness, how could I? How could I?"
You should have, because she's the sweetest one in the room. You are amazing, and you have such a bright soul, and I'm so glad you're helping so many people.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the work that you're doing and that you have done globally, and for speaking so many people's truth into this world.
Thank you. I hope we can continue to do it together, because we need people that are understanding every side of what's going on. Thank you for today.